Hey guys, it's Genevieve, and look who came to help me. So I am going to tell you guys about the play we want to do for Pineapple Productions, which of course is the homeschool theater group part of Sweet Harmony. And the play that we think we would like to do this year is the Two Noble Kinsmen. So just a minute talking about why Shakespeare in the first place. Mostly because the language, the poetry, the images, the human emotions are so beautiful, and we want to make it accessible. Shakespeare is meant to be enjoyed, not just endured. And when you understand it, you realize that the characters are wonderful examples of human nature. The stories are timeless and timely. Timeless because they still ring true after 400 years, and timely because the issues and the human emotions that they discuss are still very relevant to us. And of course, sometimes when you understand Shakespeare, you also understand that some of his humor is pretty base, kind of crude. And, you know, personally, when I'm reading through these stories, I just kind of laugh and I think about what the reaction that the common people would have had in Shakespeare's time in the Globe Theater. It's, you know, people have a tendency to be low and crass sometimes, but with Pineapple Productions, we are always trying to elevate and look for the good. Sorry, my cat is scaring me. Go away, kitty. Okay, and we always make it family friendly, and that's why I don't necessarily suggest that you want to just go and read this, because it's a difficult play to get through, and there are jokes and humor that are inappropriate. But we will alter the jokes and alter the situations to be funny and appropriate for our family audiences. One reason we chose this play is because there actually are a lot of named female characters who have good monologues and good scenes. And that's kind of rare in Shakespeare. Another fun thing is no one knows it very well, right? And it's not the Two Gentlemen of Verona, it's the Two Noble Kinsmen. So we thought it would be fun to introduce you to something new, and it's a fun challenge. Also, as a homeschool group, here are some interesting facts that you could incorporate into your homeschool. I did not plan this, guys. Seriously, my cat is crazy. Hi, you won't leave me alone. Okay, for a homeschool group, there's lots more research that you can do. This story, for example, was not just written by William Shakespeare. It's credited to William Shakespeare and his friend John Fletcher. They also collaborated on writing Henry VIII. This play was first published in 1634, which was well after both of them died. And the story was based off of... Hi, guys. The story that Shakespeare based it off of was Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, which itself was written in the late 1300s. So to Shakespeare, the story was already 300 years old. But the story itself is even older. Chaucer based his Knight's Tale off of an old Italian poem by Boccaccio, written earlier in the 1300s. And they all involve the even more ancient legends of Theseus and Hippolyta, which date as far back as ancient Greece, 1100 BC to 300 BC. So as you can see, this has elements of very, very old stories. So why has it lasted so long? What do we like about it? And how can we relate to it? I hope that those are questions that you'll ask yourself as you learn about the story and are part of the play. All of Shakespeare's plays, most of them, are categorized as either a tragedy or a comedy, and that's kind of based on their endings. Comedies usually end in marriage, and tragedies usually end in death. And this play is categorized as a tragic comedy because we get both in the end. It's funny, but also one of the main characters dies. Okay, so here we go. Let's see how fast we can get through this plot. We begin in Athens, in ancient Greece, with a grand wedding procession for Theseus and Hippolyta, but they are interrupted by three queens. There's been a battle in which their husband kings have died on the battlefield, and King Creon, who was the victor, will not allow the wives to reclaim their husbands' bodies. So they come in begging Theseus and Hippolyta for help. King Creon is the ruler of Thebes. He's not a character in the play, but he's mentioned because he has two nephews, Palamon, and we're going to say Arcite. I'm not sure if that's the right way to say it. Excuse me. So we're introduced to Palamon and Arcite, and they are supposed to be, you know, perfect examples of Greek ideals, right? Of perfect health, strength, virtue. They're a good catch, right? When we meet them, they're actually discussing how their uncle and his city has become corrupted, and they decide that they want to leave so that they're not tainted with the sins of the city and the people around them. But just as they decide to leave, a messenger comes to tell them that their city, Thebes, is under attack. This is Theseus bringing people back, right, to avenge the queens and let them get their dead husbands off the battlefield. Drink break. Okay. But Arcite and Palamon are captured in the battle and brought to Athens as prisoners of war. And so now in their jail cell, they think they're going to be there the rest of their lives, and they comfort each other by their friendship, and they tell each other basically like, you know, we're going to be all right because we've got each other. And if we were free back in the world, we might get separated, and we might die while we were separated from each other, or maybe one of us would marry and that would separate us. But here, just the two of us, we'll be each other's family, and we're better off here, and we're safe from the bad influences of the world. And Palamon says, I do not think it possible our friendship should ever leave us. And Arcite says, till our deaths it cannot. And so those lines are sort of a challenge for the characters, right? Only a few lines later, Palamon looks out the window and sees this beautiful Amelia walking in the garden below, and he is instantly in love. And then Arcite looks out the window and he also falls in love. And so these best friends are immediately in a fight, literally using the argument, I saw her first. And of course, let's see. So the next thing, kind of plot point that comes, is the jailer comes in and tells Arcite that he has been allowed to leave, but he's banished from the city of Athens. And he's not happy about that because he feels really sad because he's lost all of his chance with Amelia, and he's really jealous because Palamon, even though he's in jail, gets to look out his window and see Amelia. So Arcite decides that he's not going to leave Athens. He returns through the forest in disguise, and on his way he meets some country people preparing for a May Day celebration. And this is where we will stage and get to insert some fun dances and things. And Arcite also enters some of the games that they're having and impresses Theseus so much that Theseus makes Arcite an attendant to Amelia. Score, right? Meanwhile, back in the jail, we have a whole other class of characters who are so low that they aren't even given names, right? We've got the jailer, the jailer's daughter, the wooer of the jailer's daughter, and a doctor. But these guys do have a lot of human emotions, and they bring a lot of tragic and comedic elements to the story. So the jailer's daughter has been promised to a man of her own class, and they're planning to get married, but then she is taking care of Palamon, and she falls in love with Palamon. And she devises a plan. She thinks that if she helps Palamon escape from jail, that he will thank her by running away with her and marrying her. So she frees him and plans to meet him in the forest with food and clothes and a file to saw through his shackles. So Palamon, still shackled, escapes from the forest and comes across Arcite and the May Day celebration. And they confront each other and challenge each other to a fight for Amelia. And Arcite agrees to return in a few hours with food and clothes and files and armor and swords so that they can fight it out. When he does come back, there's a really great comedic scene where they're preparing to fight each other, but in putting on their armor, there's little jokes in the original Shakespeare, sort of akin to like, do I look fat in this? You know, they're best friends, and there's this best friend chit-chat going on, even though they're about to fight each other to the death over a girl. Meanwhile, the jailer's daughter can't find Palamon in the woods, and she's afraid that wild animals ate him. And then she realizes, my dad will probably be blamed for Palamon's escape, and they will probably hang my dad. So she basically pulls an Ophelia and goes a little wackadoodle. And while she is hallucinating in the forest, she comes across the countrymen and the countrywomen practicing for a dance, and she gets pulled into the action. So again, it's kind of this crazy farce of, you know, people going crazy, people so over the top in love, but there's really high stakes, right? Like, she's really concerned about her dad being hanged for something that she did. Okay, we haven't talked much about Emilia. So Emilia is the sister of Hippolyta. They're both Amazons. And look up the legends on Theseus and Hippolyta. They're pretty interesting. And Hippolyta is about to marry Theseus, and Theseus has this best friend, Pirithous. Okay? So Emilia is interesting. She has a scene much earlier on where she's talking to her sister Hippolyta about love and friendship, and they are talking about this great friendship that Theseus and Pirithous have and how dedicated they are to each other. But Hippolyta kind of has a line where she's like, well, yeah, but now that he's marrying me, I better be his best friend. And Emilia tells us a story how she had just the dearest, closest childhood friend, and that friend died when they were very young. And she kind of is sad, and she says, well, I don't think that I could ever love a man as much as I loved my best friend. And so again, that's sort of a challenge, right, to the author and to the characters. So back to Palamon and Arcite. Just as they are about to battle each other, Theseus comes across them in the forest. And remember, he's the king of Athens, basically. He hears their story. Oh, 1 minute. And he tells them, well, basically, I should execute both of you because you were my war prisoners and you escaped from jail and you were banished and you came back. So by rights, I should be able to kill you. But I'm going to let you battle for Emilia under my conditions. Whoever wins gets to marry her, and whoever dies will be executed. So they agree to that, and Emilia doesn't really know either of the knights, and she can hardly tell the difference between Palamon and Arcite, and that's kind of illustrated where she comes in and she has two pictures of them, and she can't even really tell or remember like who's who, and she's trying to decide their virtues and who she should be rooting for. Meanwhile, back at the jail, the jailer and his daughter have been pardoned for Palamon's escape, but the daughter is still crazy. And the doctor prescribes, well, he diagnoses love as the cause of her madness, and also love as the prescription to heal her. And so this is kind of a funny play on, we just have had that discussion of Emilia, you know, like not knowing who's who, can't tell the difference. And so the doctor's cure is, well, has she ever loved anyone before? And they say, yes, she's actually engaged to somebody. And they say, well, just pretend that this guy is Palamon. Just call him Palamon and she won't know the difference. And they'll be in love and everything will be fine. So there's all these funny commentaries on love, crush, true love. How well do you know these people? Okay, so here we are at the end. As we enter Act 5, we have 3 prayers to 3 Greek gods. So Arcite prays to Mars for victory. Palamon prays to Venus to win Emilia's love. Oh, cat's back. And Emilia prays to Diana to not get married, basically. Also, there's one more twist. When Theseus set up the arrangements, he said he wanted each of the men to bring 3 of his knights with him. And so in the battle, it's Arcite and his 3 knights against Palamon and his 3 knights, and whoever loses, all of them are executed. So, you know, if we're talking about these themes of friendship, like, that's a real test of your friendship right there. And the way it is staged, Emilia only hears the battle. And so when it sounds like one man is winning, she's kind of shifting her allegiance back and forth to one man or the other. So we finally all learn, along with Emilia, that Arcite is the victor, and Palamon and his knights are supposed to be executed immediately. So they come out, Palamon is ready, he puts his head on the chopping block, he gives some very noble speeches, and so do the other knights. But then a messenger arrives, and he sort of relates this story and tells us that Arcite was riding his horse on these cobblestones, and the horse threw him, and then the horse landed on top of him, and that Arcite is dying. And they carry in Arcite, and he says that he gives up his right to Emilia, and that it really should have been Palamon all along, because after all, Palamon saw her first. So Arcite dies, and Theseus says that they will all mourn him for a few days, and then they'll celebrate Palamon and Emilia's wedding. So we have this sort of like, be careful what you ask for thing too. So Arcite got what he prayed for. He got the win in the battle. But Palamon also got what he prayed for. He got the girl. But Emilia, yeah, no, she didn't get what she prayed for, so poor girl. And so you might, it's a weird play, right? You gotta go, what the heck is this play about? But remember, it's a tragic comedy, and we plan as directors to play up the comedic aspects of it, to make it as hilarious as we can. And to be able to laugh at ourselves, because we look at the ridiculousness of how these characters really shift their allegiances, and they do all sorts of daring and crazy things for what they call love. And so that's a fun cartoonish reflection of, you know, the things that we might do or say for love. But I think it's also in that way a commentary on flighty crushes, you know, and makes us kind of ask what is true love. And in this context, maybe the true love is better illustrated in the devoted friendships that they have, the military brotherhoods that are willing to die for each other, the innocent childhood friends, and also marriages. And that there are wonderful allegiances that we should have to those that we truly love. But there's lots of fun themes to pull out and to play with, and mostly we're doing this show to have a lot of fun and to introduce you to the hard task of understanding and memorizing beautiful Shakespearean language. And this is considered an advanced acting project for our theater group. We want you to audition. We want you to be a part of it. We can also edit things to the abilities of our actors, right? So we can have those who have the longer monologues and more complicated speeches. And then there are lots of other little parts where you can be a part of it and have a lot of fun, but you won't have to memorize as much. So I hope that this has helped you understand a little bit more of the Two Noble Kinsmen. Hope you know a little bit about the plot and the characters, and that you will want to be a part of this show. And I will send you this document also with some of the characters' names. Thank you. Bye-bye.